Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, from wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for being here. We're very delighted to host you for the very first Energy conference. The theme for this year, as you know, is Energizing Futures, bridging traditional practices with modern innovation. And it's great to see some familiar faces, Professor Mark Rosen and Kevin, Daniel, and the rest of the speaking esteemed speakers. Thank you very much. So today we're going to go into the fascinating intersection of the age-old energy practices and with cutting-edge innovations. So what can we learn from indigenous practices in looking at the net zero energy transition, and how can we move forward with the advancements in technology like the AI and so on and so forth. And we would like to explore, like, how can this diverse approaches from traditional to modern innovations, how can they coexist? And not just coexist, but how can they complement each other to pave the way for a sustainable and a thriving future? And we've got a very, very packed schedule for today. We have some of the brightest minds in the field. We have Professor Mark Rosen, who is the keynote speaker, and he's going to be talking about hydrogen energy system, a pathway to a sustainable energy future. We have Ms. Dani Alexander. She's going to be talking about bridging the gap between new energy technology and existing market. We have Professor Kevin Unwa Igwe. He's going to be talking about current initiatives for uptake of solar energy in Southern Africa. We also have Professor Daniel Kamen, who is going to be talking about clean energy innovation to accelerate the sustainable development goals. We have Dr. Andreas Escribano. He's going to be talking about implementation of energy efficiency measures in the academic sector. So we're going to look at how academia contribute to net zero energy transition, and looking at the case study of the University of Castilla-La Mancha in Spain. And Dr. Debbie will be talking about climate change mitigation and adaptation challenges in the era of clean energy technologies. Dr. Yan will be looking at the case study from the United States and looking at the mixed reality and AI for building design and construction towards sustainability. And last but not least, we're going to hear from Dr. Kuman, who's going to be talking about solar energy storage using latent heat thermal energy storage for medium and high temperature applications. So as you can see, we have the brightest mind in various fields, and we're excited that we have everybody here today. For our audiences, feel free to share insights, quotes from our speakers, and some of the updates on all our social media platform at the Green HQ. Please tag us, and we'll definitely retweet. And so I can't wait to hear the ideas and discussion that will emerge from this. I thank you all for joining us virtually, for showing your commitment, and also being part of an important evolution in the energy practices. And I hope that today that will make the most of this opportunity to learn from each other and to inspire real change. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to call on Dr. Eugene Enteris, who is the chair for this year conference, to give us a welcome and opening remarks into the theme of the conference. Dr. Enteris, the floor is yours. Thank you.
I guess it's the morning or probably afternoon somewhere around the world. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this wonderful meeting of all these esteemed speakers and specialists, and I hope that we'll get something out, positive something out of it, and with all our intentions to make the process of energizing our energy use and political economies better. I have 10 minutes. I just put my clock here for precisely 10 minutes, so it will ring, and we won't be worried about the time. So the time is set, and I think that the ideas of the conference are going much bigger than beyond the simple energy issues. And I like the title of the conference, Energizing, which to my mind is the connotation goes beyond the simple energy issues. It's about how the perspectives of our development, both in the world and in Africa in particular. Um, the welcoming address is about actually the recommendations, the guidelines for the future research and future activities, both of our institute and around the world. And first of all, the energy issues, of course, are most important because it's about the new mix, energy mix in the new circumstances around the world, and particularly with new challenges, including sustainability and first of all, probably the climate, which is important for Africa as well as for Europe, and some other things like circular economy, renewables, and etc. So that's a broad aspect of changing energy mix, because the formulating the optimal energy mix is tantamount to a progressive national and regional political economy pattern, specifically under present world challenges. And although the demand for energy is growing everywhere, the energy use in Africa per capita is the lowest in the world, despite ample energy resources. Africa accounts for just 6% of the global energy use. Well, at the same time, the positive thing is the continent has less than 3% of global energy-related CO2 emissions. But still about 43% of African population lacks stable access to electricity, mostly in sub-Saharan regions. So, however, some countries are on track to full access by 2030, such as Ghana, Kenya, and Rwanda. For example, abundance of electricity is vital for some parts of Africa, for example, in desalination of waters. Renewables are the modern trend in energy mix. By 2035, according to International Energy Agency, this source of energy will reach 65% installed capacity. Besides, in Africa, solar and wind will grow faster than hydropower. In the energy mix by 2050, the following combination is envisaged: about 70% from solar and 20% from wind, and only 10% from hydropower. The common denomination of all these predictions is the lack of investments, both public and private. But we'll go to that if I have time further on. So, energizing the future, and the title it shows us is to be analyzed through balancing the traditional and modern approaches. It's a complicated issue, both for the individual countries and for the African Union as in total. The history of the African history has had a quite turbulent and complicated history. For about a century or more than a century, it was colonized, except for two countries in Africa. All other countries were colonized. That has had a very devastating effect for the whole development. And well, I have 5 minutes. I'm sorry, according to my watch, and that has had a devastating effect on modern development. But we, at the same time, we have to look closely and honestly analyze the perspectives of this combination of nomad or local traditions and modern, in particular with the burning issue of immigration, African immigration. It will be wrong to say that that's going to be the main issue. Not at all. Uh, Several countries in Africa do not experience this growing trend of immigration. And finally, the communications to the world. And that is to my mind, the combination of two unions, African Union and European Union. The two unions have a lot in common, and they are, of course, quite different. For example, the African Union combines 54 countries, the European Union just 27. But the GDP in Africa for the whole continent is about 3 trillion. That's on par with such countries like Japan or Germany. The European Union GDP is about 20 trillion, well, 6 times more. And the GDP per capita in Africa is about 1,500 in US dollars, and in the European Union it's about 54,000. In the United States it's 76,000. Of course, that's the reason for immigration. But anyway, the optimal political economy reflecting the modern challenges would definitely reduce this. We have to be very honest about it, and getting while some of the researchers and politicians in the world are talking about new Marshall Plan for the African Union, I don't think that it's a feasible solution. I think that the recipe for the cue for optimal development in the energizing the development in the African Union countries would go from inside. I guess that the governance bodies and the political leaders in the countries in the African Union would make their own recipe, and we have to investigate this. And this is the main task for the researchers on both sides of the two unions, in Europe and in Africa. We in Europe are helping a lot to the development and progressive development in Africa, and we'll do that further on. But we have to cooperate. The cooperation is very important nowadays in this deglobalized world with a lot of new regional powers and regional facilities, participants in blocks like BRICS plus Asia, ASEAN, NAFTA, Mercosur, and the EU, for example, as well as G7 and G20. That gives the African Union additional power in the world, but that has to be used with the good scientific advice. With this, I would finish. I have some 2 minutes according to my watch, but anyway, I'll spare the time, and I wish the participants all the best in this conference, getting something out of it with the positive effect for their researchers. And I would encourage the researchers to go ahead with this energizing complex. And I would gladly assist anyone in this research by advice and other aspects. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eteris, for that wonderful introduction. So we're going